Trading Addicts, what's up? Welcome to the weekly watch list. This is Jeff Kohler, aka the Option Addict, from over at www.tradingaddicts.com. Here's where we're headed this week. Let's start with a little bit of market analysis. Last week, first couple of days, I was out of the office, came back, and on Wednesday we talked about this developing range in the S&Ps. To see this, what I think you ought to do is examine, let's say, like a 30-minute chart to get a really clear picture of what's going on here. What this looks like to me is kind of a consolidation range, a triangle, a symmetrical triangle at that, where we've coiled up pretty well. And we had, I'd come back and we were looking for a big rally off of the 1305 level, which we had on Thursday. Said, okay, don't buy up, wait, well, there's going to be one more good pullback, one more opportunity to buy the dip, before we come out of this range, if we're going to come out of it to the upside. Sure enough, we sold off, we improved off of those lows, off of that 1312 level, right in that vicinity, and popped up there into the close. Now, futures are a little bit soft, and where we're at right now is we're revisiting the lower end of this range, right about ES right now trading at about 1315. I expect that if this level is going to hold, if we revisit this one more time, and this indeed does hold, this pattern is going to take us out to the upside. Now, I think the only thing that's really been holding us back right now is that correlation between oil, right? I mean, higher oil prices right now, not good for stocks. So it seems like on the intraday level, every time there's a pretty significant uptick in crude, stocks start to get a little soft. So in looking at the USO, I mean, obviously we've got to see oil prices pull back a little bit, and that's one thing that I'm looking at. Let me adjust my chart here so that you can see what I'm looking at. There we go. And that's where we're at now. We're right at about going back onto a longer term chart here of crude oil futures. We're bumping right around that 61% retracement level. So if we were going to see a pullback here, I think that would be at least a pause in this increase. I mean, naturally, I think like most are saying that crude's not going to stay under 120 for long. But this week, if we can see crude at least soften a little bit, that would give us a good reason to see higher equity prices, at least on the week, at least to travel towards the upper end of that range, which is kind of what I'm betting on, is betting on just the setup with inside this pattern. Going back to the 20-minute chart, there it is. Whichever way we break from this, be prepared, be ready to trade away from it, because whichever way we break, I think that's going to be, the next directional movement. Now, what's crazy is that, with the uptick in oil, we saw volatility on the rise. But it seems like if you look at that VIX right now, it looks a whole lot different than what crude oil looks like. Crude oil's been on a pretty good rise, but in this last rise, it seems like the market, vis-a-vis volatility, hasn't really been too fearful of higher crude oil prices. And that's one of those things that has me kind of leaning towards the fact that I think we could see equity prices again continue to the upside out of this range. The other thing is copper. I'm not going to go through and pull up that chart because I've only got a few more minutes here, but take a look at copper futures. For the last few days they haven't moved. Equities have been hit, copper prices have just been steady. They're holding. And I'm paying close attention to that. While equities have come down and revisited, their last swing low, copper prices haven't. And that's always a pretty good sign. Anyway, so with that, guys, let's go through a couple of ideas. I've got some pretty high probability patterns that I want to be on the lookout for this week. And I've got a long list of shorts too, which I'll post underneath the weekly watch list on the website. But here's some of the equity longs that I like. We'll start with CAVM. This is a name that I like quite a bit. If tech stocks are going to catch any kind of a move to the upside here, I'm looking for a breakout in this one. I also like the fact that Brocade has held up as well as it has. We talked about this, for my subs on Friday, but looking for a break of this range. If you go out to the 2-year chart, you can see a nice big rounded bottom developing, and if prices can get up above about 650 or so, we're going to see 8 in short order. There's a pretty big volume pocket overhead on the way up to about 7.5. So Brocade is a name that I like quite a bit on my radar this week. I like this setup in F5. I think if you're going to try any one of these stocks, this is the one to try. Held up pretty well on Friday, and I like that this setup here is easy to manage. You know, if it breaks down a little bit, you hop out, but if you see a little bit of a bounce, I think this would be the spot to buy before it breaks out of this continuation pattern. Gotta like MMR here. Still watching for that thing to perk up a little bit and see a breakout. I'm watching Skyworks, SWKS, see if it can break away from this consolidation pattern. I took some Sohu calls, and that might have been a little bit early on Friday, but I kind of like the idea of China. You know, the emerging markets and the FXI, they look really, really good. You know, if you look at these, you know, bearish channels that they've been trading in for so long, last week they finally caught the move outside. And one of the big red flags with this rally here has been the fact that emerging markets have been so soft, they haven't been participating. Well, that was a big old breakout in the EEM last week, right? And if you look at the FXI, you know, it's also confirmed a little bit of a double bottom right here too. So I'm thinking, looking at some of those, you know, beaten down China equities, Sohu is one. I've got some calls there, but C-Trip, you know, looking for this to break out. Maybe even this little Asia. I like this pattern here, like the setup. Let's see, Citrix, CTXS. Look for a breakout of this multi-month triangle pattern. I think that looks pretty good. Take Two Interactive. Look how this thing's all coiled up, nice and neat up here. That would be a lovely little breakout trade. And it's the right stock too. This is a stock that moves pretty well when it does start to trend. So that's one that's on my radar. National Semi, NSM. Clean up my charts a little bit, but there you go. Again, looking for a break away from this. So what else do I got? Let's see. Cognizant. Good breakout candidate if the market starts to firm up this week. Zolt. Haven't traded this stock in a long time. It looks like one of those that could be poised for a move. And then Century Aluminum. I gotta admit, you know, this stock doesn't look too bad up here, trading really, really well. So that's that. Now on to the small caps. There, I'll give you just a few. I've got a long list. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll post a list on the website. But here's some that I'm watching come tomorrow morning. Westel. I've tried this a couple of times and failed, but that was a pretty good volume spike on Friday, and price really didn't move. So I think it's got to get out of this range. I'm willing to try it again here on Monday if it starts to move. I like the setup here in Jade quite a bit. Another stock just coiled up. Pretty good couple days of worth of volume. Last 2 days held up really well. The market was soft. Like the setup here in AAU. Just looking for that stock to just firm up a little bit. There's a lot of retail names that I like, but one of the better patterns that I found was Christopher and Banks. I like this setup in JST, Jinpan International. And VVTV, that's Value Vision Media. I like this little consolidation pattern here. You know, just looking at some of these on like 30-minute charts, they look coiled up, ready to pop. And that's some of the things I've been looking for as of late. Had pretty good success with some of those setups. Anyway, guys, so that's what I'm thinking here. You know, futures are are soft overnight. If they get down, again, going back to the S&Ps, the level that I start to get really concerned, you know, that we'll see a breakdown, would be I would give it to Thursday's lows. If Thursday's lows are taken out, you know, and then of course we get beneath 1300, you know, then you can start betting on a move down to about 1275 or so. But if these lows continue to hold, there's been a pretty steady bid around that level. It was some pretty good algo buying on Friday, as a matter of fact. But if that level holds coming into tomorrow, I still like the idea of trying to buy, unless, of course, the intraday structure looks pretty bad. So we'll have to see how things open up tomorrow. Anyways, guys, like I said, I'll post my bearish watch list too. I've got about 30 stocks on there that look lovely to short. I'll throw those in with the complete list all on the website. And as always, we'd love for you to come visit us over at Trading Addicts. 5 days for $5. Give us a try. In the meantime, this has been The Option Addict. That's been my watch list. Thanks for watching. Have a profitable week.
From here on, nothing goes down unless I'm involved. No blackjack, no dope deals, no nothing. A nickel bag gets sold in the park. I want in. You guys got fat while everybody starved on the street. It's my turn.